doesn't end up mattering that much. I'm actually very interested to see how Zera
Doomfist.
And he but I mean, when I do. Oh, and Andrew with a double kill here, now picking up 2, and now Agreed with a nice ban. He'll pick up 2 of his own.
That's
and then
going to
third
be
from Agreed.
Never before has a team been so critically panned from the get-go that they were universally agreed upon to be the bottom seed in their division. Some even went as far to say that the Bark could be fair competition for the top novice teams, despite being nearly twice their SR. And furthermore, never before has a team proven those expectations so incredibly wrong. HCB's tale is one of consistently grinding and gradually becoming a legitimate competitor underneath everyone's noses. So, as all good tales must, let's start from the beginning.
Hangzhou Bark started off Season 1 under a completely different and mildly tumultuous banner. They were originally casted as Gengu Clan and were set to be managed by Season 1 champion Master Dempsey, with Clovix as his captain. Unfortunately, tragedy struck the team early on as Dempsey's computer was experiencing technical difficulties, rendering it useless and him unable to manage a team as hands-on as he would have liked. After just a few weeks, and with just over a week until the Advanced Divisions draft, Dempsey stepped down. Staff searched for a short while for a replacement before ultimately landing on Clovix. The captain turned manager was not entirely confident in his abilities, but he wanted to carry out the would-be legacy of the team. Clovix figured that if Dempsey saw enough of him to make him the captain of Gengu Clan, then with enough help he could make a decent manager.
Clovix chose Hedwig as the team's captain, which immediately gave the team an incredibly strong hit scan specialist guaranteed. Now they would need to build the remainder of the roster and fit all the pieces together. Leading up to the draft, the team rebranded to the Hangzhou Bark we know and love today. And from the draft itself, they picked up quite the roster, to say the least. Agreed was an interesting choice for main tank, as his aggression was practically infamous in the community by that point, but there were also some arguably solid pickups like YOLO God for off-tank and Rectophobia. The remainder of the team was mostly unknown talent at the time, with the exception of Endil as the sole flex DPS. Now, Endil was toxic, to say the least. Hell, he's primarily responsible for the suffering of Season 0's Uwu. Furthermore, it was widely known that he wasn't all too willing to play Brig in GOAT's meta, which made him a questionable choice at best. Nevertheless, this is what Hangzhou had to deal with until the trading window opened at week 3, so they would have to make the best of it for the time being. Hangzhou's early season blues would continue as they lost a few players they had drafted, such as the Kraken and, unsurprisingly, Endil. They did grab a few replacement players, but surprisingly enough, they never picked up a new flex DPS, which left them in the awkward position of finding someone to play Brig. Despite this early awkwardness and their lack of practice, starting off, HCB actually managed to make the first game against Crest mildly competitive. Of course, Crest were the heavy favorites to win, and they did, but Bark put up a better fight than most expected. If they were able to get more scrim time under their belts and work out their coordination issues, they might become a legitimate force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately, that time would have to wait, as their Week 2 opponents were Z9, coming fresh off a humiliating loss to Easy Clap the week prior, and looking to burn off some serious steam. What followed was a vicious stomp, and honestly no one could blame HCB for feeling demoralized afterwards. Though they weren't down in the dumps for too long, as soon after they began to realize how much work was required to stand against the top teams in Advanced. They had already faced those who were predicted to be the number 1 and 2 seeds, so theoretically it should be easy sailing from here on out. And sure enough, their hard work began to pay off. Week 3's match against Easy Clap started off a little bit rough, but slowly shifted in HCB's favor. They finally put their first win on the board, and the insane effort put in by a select few members like Agreed and Hedwig really showed. It was around this time that Hangzhou picked up Kurt Lebert on main support and slowly rounded out their starting lineup. Week 4 went down to the wire, but in the end Chengdu fell against Bark in a 5-map thriller. This was a serious morale boost to win 2 games in a row, and it inadvertently caused some of the team to become cocky about their final match before the mid-season break. Newt had been struggling up until that point, and while they did manage to defeat Easy Clap in Week 4, well, it was Easy Clap. It wasn't that much of an accomplishment by that point in the season. This complacency combined with a lack of scrims would lead to their downfall though, as Newt were on a newfounded tear and utterly dominated HCB in the process. It didn't help that Bark needed to utilize multiple subs, and in the end they fell 4-0. But still, they weren't doing too terribly in the grand scheme of things. Closing out the halfway mark in the season at a 2-3 record was definitely salvageable, if only they could work out the kinks and simple mistakes holding them back.
The mid-season break brought a few changes that would prove to be absolutely crucial to Hangzhou's growth moving forward. The first, and easily the most controversial, is that Klovics was unanimously voted out of the team as manager due to inactivity, leaving Hedwig to fill his shoes and agree to step up as the new captain. Next, the team sought out a coach in the extremely talented 4.6k peak flex support Andrew. This was supposedly a side gig for him, and according to the team it showed at times, but at the very least they had some coaching from now on. Arguably one of the more important pickups was grabbing Acid after he was dropped from Z9. Not only was Acid a flex DPS like they so sorely needed, but he also offered his services as assistant manager to make sure HCB got back on track and became better than ever. And last but certainly not least, Jepic was picked up on off tank, originally intended as a backup to YOLO God, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Revitalized by their mid-season moves, Bark came into Week 6 looking to make a large statement going against Crest. They performed well for a team expected to place dead last during Week 1, but they had now solidified themselves as a serious contender, and were looking for the win. Crest took an early lead, but Hangzhou managed to bring the series back, going all the way to map 5. Z9 was the only other team to bring the top advanced seed this far, so Bark were already well ahead of where they were expected to place. Unfortunately, the dream would stop just short, as they barely lost in an Oasis tiebreaker. The Bark would have to suffer one more defeat at the hands of Z9 the following week before their fortunes would truly turn around. A few late season pickups in Term, Avoid, and signing their coach Andrew gave the roster the right amount of depth it needed to take their play to the next level. Hedwig would eventually take over Brig duty from Acid, while Term would take over on Zarya. Jepic would take over for YOLO God after an unfortunate disconnect, and would go on to perform at an incredibly high level for someone initially meant to ride the bench. Andrew would also become well known for his ability to micromanage the team, Agreed in particular, and pull off some of the most cohesive strategies that have ever come out of Hangzhou. The community as a whole raved about Andrew's insane play, and the team was also rather high on his capabilities. The main issue with their newfound in-game leader was his inconsistency to show up. He may have had fun while playing with the Bark, but Andrew never truly considered League Zero his main focus. That would lead the team to scrimming with their usual setup and throwing Andrew in at the last moments if he decided to show up for the occasional game. For the time being, this strategy worked against lesser teams, but it was unknown whether or not this would work against Crest or Z9 when the time came for playoffs. Nonetheless, HCB closed out the remainder of the regular season with 3 more wins, placing them at a 5-5 record and a solid 3rd place standing. Not enough to earn the bye round in the playoffs, but enough to ensure their opponents would be the brand new iteration of Easy Clap.
Hangzhou was extremely confident going into the quarterfinals. During their press conference after the regular season, they went on record to comment, "It's easy clap." And sure enough, their gusto was well founded, as they dominated their first playoff game in 3-0 fashion. With Z9 looking weaker than ever, and Bark having defeated the Chads just a few weeks prior, Hangzhou was rapidly looking like the new second best team in the league. Unfortunately, their success would soon be put to the test in the semifinals, as Crest had chosen them. To their credit, Bark put up a good fight and nearly brought the series to a map 5. Unfortunately, it was just not meant to be. There's a slew of reasons as to why they failed to take down Crest on their 3rd attempt, including but not limited to mentality and lack of confidence. Just like they had done before, they subbed in Andrew when he spontaneously showed up, which threw a monkey wrench into the plans they've been practicing non-stop leading up to this game. It wouldn't be wrong to say that they perhaps placed too much faith in Andrew's calls, as they opted to follow his lead, running comps they were not comfortable with, putting them in a bad position against the powerhouse that was Crest. The team performed well on their roles individually, but they struggled to bring it all together like they had in the matches leading up to this one. The pressure of surpassing the obstacle placed before them proved to be too much, however, as they slowly started to tilt and inevitably lost to the future champions.
Hangzhou is one of the few teams that went through multiple managerial changes throughout the season, and were still able to keep their composure despite the hardship. They were expected to be dead last, and instead proved that with enough determination, they could rival some of the best teams in their division. If you're looking for the most growth both as players and as a team, look no further than Bark. I am curious to the alternate reality, where Crest chose to face Chengdu in the semis, if Hangzhou could have made it all the way to the finals, because there is a legitimate case to be made about them being the 2nd strongest team in the league at that time. They may have been booted out of the playoffs 1 round early due to chance, but we'll never truly know, as it was not their destiny to travel to the grand finals this season. With a little more confidence in themselves, I think they could have hurdled that final roadblock and ascended to a position that could have potentially rivaled the perceived peak of Chengdu. What Hangzhou managed to accomplish this season is truly incredible, but I fear that their legacy will be somewhat lost to time due to their 3rd place finish. Though I guess this video will help in that regard. I look forward to seeing what these players end up doing in the future, and if they choose to compete in League Zero yet again. Will they be able to continue on with the personal development started while they were a part of HCB? Only time will tell. A-.